Hi, my name is Haley, and today I'm going to be going over Ignite's Calligraphy Kit. When you open the kit, you'll find a resource list on the inside of the lid here. It lists everything that we have inside of the kit, and it also has helpful URLs to YouTube videos in case you find yourself stuck or you just need some inspiration. Inside we have straight holders and ink and nibs if you wanted to do some nib calligraphy. We also have various other pens. We have some fine liners and some brush pens here, and also an actual brush if you wanted to do calligraphy with a brush. These are some of my favorite brush pens. These are the dual brush pens. One of them is actually a blender, if you ever wanted to mess around with that. We also have a rag in here. Ink can get really messy, so it's important to have something to absorb the ink. Each kit also comes with a book on calligraphy. We have 2 unique calligraphy kits in our kit library here at Ignite, and they each have their own unique book. An important note about these books, they do have practice sheets inside. We have copies of those that we print out here on individual pieces of paper. So if you ever do come by, make sure you don't write in the book and instead you use our printed practice sheets. We also have a lettering guide. This is a neat little tool in case you want to be a little more precise and exact about your measurements here. This is a really handy tool. So let's get started. So I've decided that I'm going to write the word Ignite, and I haven't decided what lettering style I'd like to use. So I'm going to go through this book and try to find some inspiration. I want to find a lettering style that I like and that I think I could do. And I think I like something like this. This is really nice and bold and kind of fun. So I'm going to try to do something like this. And I think that these dual brush pens will get the job done. So I've decided I'm going to use one of these. And I just chose black. So here I am with a practice sheet. This is just a random sheet that is included in the folder here. And I've flipped it over to the back because I want to do some practice lines with this. If you're new to calligraphy, if you're new to brush pens, it's really nice to get accustomed to how they work and the different line qualities. So you can see it's all about pressure and angle. So when I'm not applying a lot of pressure, I get a nice thin line here. And the cool thing about brush pens is you get this taper on the edge of your line that adds a really nice line quality. And you can see that when I press, I get a thicker line. So knowing when to press and when to let up is going to allow you to create some really nice line quality. So I like to just kind of mess around with it at first to get accustomed to this brush's quirks. All right, now that I'm accustomed to the brush, I'm going to move on to practicing my script. Now, there wasn't actually a copy of this in the folder that was included in the kit, but I was able to ask a member of the Ignite staff to make a copy for me. So now I have a copy of the script and a blank sheet of lines, which is going to be really helpful to guide me when I'm practicing. So one thing that people find really helpful is being able to trace over the text itself to get the direction. I'm trying to do this with thin lines here so I don't actually change the shape of the letters. And I'm trying to notice where the lines are thinner and thicker so that I know where to apply that pressure that I was talking about. So I'm going to have this to the side here as my reference, and I'm going to continue on this sheet here with the lines. And I'm going to try to write the word Ignite. I'm just going to see how they do the I here. Starts with the thin line at the top. And then a much thicker line going down, and curve up the thinner line. You can tell that my hands are shaky today because my line right here isn't completely smooth, so I might need to keep warming up a little bit. The G is kind of the same. It starts with a thin line, but we curve around, and I'm going to continue to stay at the same angle and press down to immediately transition to a thicker line. And then come back up and press down. And I'm just going to continue with all the letters, just trying to notice where those thicknesses and thinness are. And I feel like it's all about confident and deliberate strokes. Like right here you can see I wasn't very confident, but when I drew the second I here, I was a lot more confident. And you can see that in how smooth that line is compared to that one. So there you go. There is the word ignite in this font. For a first try, I'm pretty happy with it. I think I might try it a few more times to see how it improves, or maybe even a different font. All right, so that's the brush pen. Now I want to transition over to the nib. You want to make sure you get your ink, and this is what the rag is for. We also have aprons at Ignite in case you don't want to get ink on your clothes. We're going to open the ink. We're going to do it very carefully. Sometimes there's a little ink bubble. There we go. So when you dip your nib, you want the ink to go just above this sort of, the hole here, the ink well. I'm going to dip it just past that point. Then you might want to tap it on the edge here to get off the surplus ink. And like before, it's a really good idea to make some test lines with this first, to understand how that control works. You can see with this nib, it's a much thinner line. And also with the nib, there is some scratchiness at certain angles. So you want to just make sure you understand how that pressure gets applied. So now I'm going to try the same font. But I know I won't be able to get the same thickness of line as I did with the brush pen. The brush pen's a lot thicker, so it's going to look a little different. But I'm just going to go ahead and get started and see what it looks like. Just kind of following that same formula with the contrast of thin versus thick. If you need to go over something twice, you totally can. And you can see it doesn't want to go this way, so I have to kind of turn my hand the way that it wants to go, or I might tear the paper. But yeah, you can see I have a lot to learn, nib-wise. And when I'm done with the nib, I want to make sure I clean it off properly. We have sinks over at Ignite, so when you are done with a calligraphy session, make sure that you wash this, get all the ink off of it so we don't have any dried ink on there. So there you have it, brush pen and nib. You can see which one I'm a little more accustomed to. I think I might practice a little more, especially with the nib, and I hope that you come to Ignite to practice your calligraphy skills as well.